I honestly don't know how to start this video. I've been debating for many months on whether or not to really talk about this, and I just feel like I've been lying, and I just haven't been honest with not only you guys but also myself. I've been really really sad, and this is the most successful I've ever been in my entire life and in my entire career, but it's also the saddest I've ever been. I've been facing things that I just never have faced in my entire life, and I never really thought I would have to face. And I think that the reason why I'm sitting down here today and like making this video is because when I watched my old videos, I realized that I used to be just so vulnerable, and I used to be able to talk about anything. I would talk about my surgeries. I would talk about like getting tubes taken out of my head. I would talk about, the estrogen, the hormones, and I just like looked at all of the things I was doing at the beginning of my YouTube channel, like only a couple years ago, like 3 years ago. And to see myself now and to see what I've gone through, I just feel like it would be such a disservice to like not tell the ugly stuff, like not tell the bad stuff. I've been feeling stuck in the way that I feel like I can't share my vulnerable side because I don't think that it's really what anyone wants to see. And it's also something that I personally don't even want to see, like that I don't even want to face. I feel like it's really hard for me to open up, not only about how I feel, but especially about pain and about heartache and about my emotions, because to me, like, of course, like I just want to live this like fantasy of like living stunty and having the best time ever and just like really being unbothered and not giving a single fuck. But at the same time, like, I'm human and I'm going through things, and I feel like I've been Nikita for only a couple of years, living this life as a woman and learning things that I never knew growing up. Like, I've always talked about how I never had a high school love. I never had a college love. I never experienced dating or experienced any kind of connection like that because I wasn't comfortable in myself and I couldn't even love myself. So like, how could I have another person in my life like actually looking to me for love, when I couldn't even accept myself? I was talking to this guy, and a lot of people were very confused about it just from the early stages, as I'm sure everyone could be. And I was honestly confused about it myself. And I think that the biggest thing for me was that it started out in a way where it wasn't like, oh, I like you, you like me, like let's make one happy fucking family. I initially kind of had him on in the light of like not us creating a relationship, if you know what I mean. Like, I was like, okay, you know what, let's film this video, let's take photos, and also too, since you are a model, like why don't you just be in my campaigns and stuff that I have lined up? Like, it just works out perfectly that way. But I think for me, when everything started to take a turn was when I started to catch feelings, and when I noticed that he started to catch feelings as well, because baby girl, it takes two to tango. And my biggest thing that I've always hated, just with any relationship or just with any person having a fling or whatever, is the other person being like, oh, well, no, I didn't even fucking like her, or no, like, she's crazy, she had it all in her head or something. And I mean, that's definitely not the case, but at the same time, I think a lot of people from outside looking in had that conception or that conceived notion about what exactly the situation was, because it had started out like that. I didn't want to accept the fact that this person could like me, and I didn't even want to accept the fact that I could like this person either, because I felt like, it just wasn't meant to happen. Like, someone who's like that isn't supposed to like someone like me, and that's not really to call out my trans identity or anything, but I think over the years of dating and of experimenting, I guess, in the scene of LA and stuff, I've realized that it's not easy being the person I am and having someone accept me as a woman. I have my guard up for like ever, right? But once I let my guard down and I let someone in, that's when they can do the absolute most damage. And I eventually let my guard down and had to, I just had to admit it, you know, like I had to admit it because I felt like, oh my God, it was like such a gut-wrenching moment to admit to someone that like you like them, you know. But I just felt like I had to make the move and be proactive and kind of like make the like I like you moment. And it was really hard, but at the same time I think what was harder was this constant not knowing of like, okay, like does this person like me, or like what's the deal, like why is it always this back and forth? And honestly, if you guys watch my Instagram and like what people know, the quote of like, if you're about it, then like what did I say? If you're about it, then be about it. But if you ain't about it, then don't be about it. Like it's just really that simple. Like that's what it came from, was the fact of my frustration of like, why, if you like me, then just motherfucking like me. Like, why does it have to be this game? And it's especially because I've never had to deal with this of like this I like you, do you like me thing. So it was really hard on me. And once I did admit my feelings, and kind of move past that stage, it was more of like a, okay, look, like I also am kind of feeling something for you as well, but I don't really know this. I'm not going to lie. This is a lot for me to take in. And this is from him. His kind of side when things were starting to like be revealed of like my true feelings was more of like a look, like I actually, I'm thinking I'm kind of liking you, but like I, you know, the mental of like everything else that's going on, like I accept you kind of for who you are, but at the same time, like it is a lot. And I accepted that, and I was okay with that for a while, of just the kind of like, you know, let's take it day by day. And I think that's what always was the thing. He was always saying like, let's take it one step at a time. Let's take it one step at a time. And I think that's the one thing I learned was like patience, bitch. I really let someone in for one of the first times, you know, like I was able to accept the fact that I was in a good place as Nikita, as a woman, to be able to try to take on this difficult kind of change of trying to be with someone who's, first of all, just like never been with anyone regardless, that's not just like a cisgender female. Not that that really comes to play, but if we're being honest, it kind of does, you know, like it's something that I'm just gonna have to go through for the rest of my life. I'm gonna have to go through the fact that like I am always having this label on me that I'm trans, that I used to be a dude. Like let's just cut it for the fact that it is. And like I especially was seeing while we were kind of together all the comments that people would be leaving, and the world is fucking nasty. And so when people are commenting about, you know, oh, does your chick have a dick? Like, oh, like you're dating a tranny, or you're dating a transvestite, or your girl used to be a dude and stuff. Like that's just the stuff and the reality of what it is to be public with someone who is trans. That's what I fear for. Like that's why especially I worry and I stay so far away from relationships, because I feel like, honestly, I feel like they just don't work out for me. I just wish that I wouldn't have to deal with this. It's just, I guess, all I'll have to say. Because I feel like there's been relationships, and especially with this one, that I wonder at least what would happen if I was just regular. You know what I mean? And, you know, everything finally came to a head when we got physical. And that was such a crazy moment, because prior it was always me wondering, and I felt as though I made the steps towards like, you know, wanting to like not even be in a relationship, but like just like reveal like, hey, I like you, like let's do something or whatever. But like I just always felt like I was making the moves, you know? So when he kind of made the move to like, you know, connect or whatever, like that was a moment where I was like, okay, like I think, you know, he might like me, or, you know, something. And maybe if not, then at least I can get this fantasy, I guess. But that's when everything changed. And that's when we really had to figure out what exactly it was. And obviously it was during a time when it was like a little crazy. It was like probably like around Christmas, like in between Christmas and Thanksgiving time era. And it all got to like the best place almost it was after I had actually filmed my Dragun Beauty campaign video. We'd hung out, and this was like the first moment that we actually just had like a chill just at my place, like watching a movie, the whole nine. And I was nervous about it because yes, we had gotten a little physical before that time, but we had it since. And so like him coming over, like I was like, I don't know like what's gonna go down. Like I really don't know. So we'd actually gone out on my balcony and we were just like looking at all over LA. Like I have a really pretty view in my apartment and you can just see all the lights, and it was like such a fucking fantasy. And this was the moment he turned to me and said, Nikita, what do you want? And I had actually answered that question drunkenly before and been like, you, like I want you, and blah, blah, blah. But this was like the first time I seriously was like looking at a man and saying that I want you and that I like you and I have feelings for you. And I understand that I'm trans, and I understand that people are saying such disgusting things on the daily on your page, or you probably have to deal with your family or your fucking aunts, uncles, cousins, friends of families or whatever, trying to understand. And like I was okay, I think, for a while it being low key. Once I finally just admitted my feelings and also my fears of like why I feel some type of way of like understanding that we shouldn't be together, because like I said, he comes from a completely different world and I am who I am. And he looked at me and said, Nikita, I don't care what the world is going to say. I don't care what people are going to say. I like you and I want something more from this. Like, I don't even want to give him like that much credit or whatever, but at the same time, it was just like, I think this was the reason why I was so hurt in the end, because that was the first time in my like transition or womanhood or whatever that I had a guy that I really liked, and just a guy in general, tell me to my face that he likes me. I'd always been the secret up to that point. I had always been the side chick. I'd always been the like secret DM and unsend or something. It just was the first time that ever happened to me, and we started talking more and just talking and talking and talking, and then it's like that moment I want to remember, and I do remember obviously, but it's like that's one of the moments where I want to like stay in, like I want to stay in that of how I remember this person. I want to stay in that as the experience that I experienced, but that was just like the start of it. So we were like so amazing, and like it was the fantasy and the dream or whatever that I've always envisioned, from like my birthday to like just everything in between. Like I've always just wanted this. Like I was willing to accept a lot of different things because like I understood that this was different. This was something that was fragile, like I knew that like he wasn't necessarily like fully comfortable with who I was. Finally, after all this time, after FFS, after this, after surgery, after this, like not saying that that's what made me into who I am today, but at the same time, like I had been through an entire crazy transition and lifetime journey, and like now I'm finally having someone look at me the way I've always wanted to be looked at. The biggest kind of overarching thing that was kind of going on was the fact that like I wouldn't tag him in a photo and he wouldn't post me in a picture. And I know that sounds so fucking stupid, but it just is what it was. For me, the photo on his page was the validation of knowing that this was someone who wanted to be with me. Whether his fucking tag or whatever, like I don't care. Like I did that around my birthday. Like I took a photo with him just like all the other time. I tagged him in it and everything, and like he didn't even like it, he even commented on it and nothing. And like I know this sounds like such first world, like oh my god, what, like he didn't like your photo, he didn't comment, but like imagine someone like complaining about something kind of essentially, like, and you finally do it and then the person like never was like, oh yeah, like thanks, you finally did it, whatever. Like my photo never came. And of course the excuse was like, oh babe, you know what, like I just, it's my modeling portfolio, like I just, I have to keep like, just like you have a fantasy, I have a fantasy of being obtainable. And like I kind of accepted that. And I also accepted the fact, knowing that like he probably had family who followed him and stuff. We got into a really big fight. We got into a really, really big fight when I had posted my campaign video. he basically sent me a text that was like, damn, you didn't tag me, how cruel. And when that happened, I was like, oh, well, this was like one of the biggest moments of my life, just announcing my brand and you were a part of it. But all right, like I'll tag you, but like, is it really just all about a business transaction to you? You know what I mean? Like that's how I was kind of thinking of it. When I was kind of approached in this way at a certain point, like that was the red flag to me. Like that was the moment when I was like, okay, like his intentions maybe aren't as pure as I thought they were. And although in this life, I think that with just everything that I have going on, I truly just don't worry about clout chasers or anything like that. I'm literally not calling him a clout chaser, but what I'm saying was at that point, it was like a kind of like, oh, okay, you know, I'm seeing the comments, I'm seeing what people are saying. We got through it and we were fine and we were like kind of building back up, you know, because we had this big, massive fight and we were on like a blank page. And then we got to a point where it was like better than it had ever been. And it was really like making its way up to like something else. And I was so honest in the initial conversation when we had our fight. And I was like, look, like I like you and like I just need to know your feelings towards me. And I pretty much am like kind of working towards a relationship in the way that if you're fucking with me, you're only fucking with me in the same way that when my attention is on you and when I'm investing my feelings into you, like it's only you. Coachella came around and so he was supposed to go with a company and the company ended up falling through. So he ended up not having tickets. So he didn't even ask me or anything. And I just felt like since we just got in this fight, I really wanted to prove to him that like, you know, like I really wanted this and I really wanted to like kind of show out and show off and whatever. So I ended up getting him a ticket, VIP ticket, wristband. I'm like, what's with all these wristbands? Haven't I gotten in trouble enough with like getting people wristbands and things? But I got him a wristband, a VIP wristband to Coachella. His roommate a wristband, and his roommate's girlfriend a wristband. So 3 fucking VIP wristbands. So it all started with day 1 of Coachella, right? So it's like I get there, he gets there, you know, whatever. And then the first day of actual real Coachella, you know, we link up. I give him his wristbands and like we, you know, talked and hung out and obviously everything. But then he ran off and then I ran off to do my own thing. And then we linked up. That first night was like literally something out of a movie. Like it was so crazy. It was so wild. It was so young. It was so like such a fantasy. And I don't mean to continue to say that, but it was just like really all the things that I had painted in my head of like what I wanted this to be and what I officially, you know, kind of wanted. And like when I started my transition, what I wanted me to have and like everything, like it was truly just that. That was the moment where I just was like on top of the world. And of course that it was such a fantasy and it was everything I'd ever wanted essentially. But that moment was cut very short. So the next day, day 2 of Coachella, like, you know, I had just hung out with him till like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I hadn't heard from him in the morning or anything. And I was, you know, getting ready. And we were both going to a party that we both knew that we were going to like be at the party, the same party. So like, I wasn't really worried. I wasn't trying to like text him and just blow him up or anything. I was just like getting ready to do my own thing, like having fun a little bit with my friends. Cause I had like hung out with him the day before cause I was with him. And I go to the party, nowhere to be seen. And it's fine cause I'm doing my own thing and having fun as well. But of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you know, like, where is he? So it had gotten really late at the party, or I'd been there for a while, and like there was only probably like an hour left. So I ended up leaving with my friends to go back home to change and then go back to the festival. And as I'm leaving, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna send him a text. So I sent him a text just asking, like, hey, like, are you gonna go to this party? No response. And I get back home and I was posting stories, obviously of the look and stuff. And he's like replying with like hard eyes and fire and all this stuff. I'm like, how are you gonna reply to my story, but then like not reply to my text and stuff? And so I was a little annoyed. So I just like ignored him, whatever. If you remember earlier, I said, I got him a ticket, I got his roommate a ticket, and I got his roommate's girlfriend a ticket. And I saw on one of their snaps, him, his roommate, the girlfriend, and another girl. like I was never stupid. Like I knew he was talking to someone and I actually just knew who it was. Like I knew that it was this other girl, and it was kind of, I felt like between me and this other girl, and it was this feeling of like, here's this girl and she's like all American, like normal, chill, like, you know, regular life, and like here I am, this crazy wild fantasy, you know, so extra on top of everything else that I embody and stuff. And I just felt like it was an internal battle between me and this other girl, which I hate. Like even in this moment, like I'm not sitting here bashing this girl because like I am not about that, and I'm not ever gonna be about that. So when I was at home, just like getting ready and stuff, I saw that he was with that girl and I knew exactly who she was. And so I went to her page and I saw that she posted a photo with him. And literally, of fucking course, her captions, break up with your girlfriend because I'm bored. Like, of course. Like, what more of an answers could I want? You know, like I said, prior to this, we'd kind of been having some struggles and whatever. And like going to Coachella was a whole mess. And I'd seen him kind of interact with this girl before and everything. And I had my own insecurities about it. What we had talked about and what I was so blatantly obvious about was like, I'm not fucking around in the sense of like, I'm not trying to talk to other people. Like, if you're not about me, then don't be about it. If you ain't about it, then don't be about it. But if you're about it, bitch, then be about it. I felt stupid. I felt embarrassed. I felt broken to see someone that I really like and that I care for and that I've been developing this thing liking or whatever. I mean, I think it's kind of human nature at this point to feel like you're not good enough. And especially with my trans identity and everything, like I've always felt like I'm not woman enough. And it's disgusting that I feel that way, and I really wish that I didn't, but it's true. And so by seeing him with this girl and seeing and remembering and thinking back of like just literally a couple hours before, like what we had and everything, like it rocked my world. And like I just felt so distraught, and like I felt so embarrassed because like all my friends were showing it to me and they were bringing it up and people were sending it to me, and I just felt like it was just like blasted in my face. And I just felt so helpless in the way that like I felt like I had invested all this time into someone. It's just so hard for me to be vulnerable in the way that I don't want to admit to myself that like it hurt me, you know? Because it really did. I still kind of don't know what to do about it because like, of course, in some ways I would want to attack and like be that bad bitch. It's like, oh, like I'm gonna fuck you up and like I'm gonna call you out and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I don't, like, it's like, I can't be mad at someone for like not being able to fully love me for me, you know? And you can't accept me for who I am, and that's fine. But at the same time, it just like really sucks that I like have to have it thrown in my face like just like another time, you know? So after that night, which was like the toughest nights of my life, and it was like more of like it like hit me, but I don't think it actually hit me. Like I was just so in shock and so like numb that I just like kind of just phased everything out. And like that's when I was doing like my cowboy hat fantasy with the like dragon on the front and the all denim look and whatever. And I feel like I was like just powering through and just trying to focus on work and trying to focus on all the fantasy and everything that I had prepared. And so then the next day, even though I did feel some type of way and I did feel sad, the guy, homeboy, had lost his phone, and I actually know for a fact he did. And so he lost his phone, and he messaged me from his roommate's phone saying, hey, this is, and I lost my phone. I'm using blah, blah, blah's phone. Let's meet up, da, 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 because he knew I was going to go watch Ariana Grande and like go in the back and whatever, VIP, blah, blah, blah. Beyond VIP, bitch. Like I had artist passes. Like I honestly almost wanted to apologize to him. Like, I am so sorry for letting you think that you could treat me this way. I am so sorry that you think by my actions that I deserve something like this. So that day I decided I was going to be the person who had control. Because up until that point, I felt like I was always waiting for him. I was always waiting for his approval. I was always waiting for him to make the move. I was always waiting for him to accept me. I was always waiting for him to like, you know, finally come to the realization that he really, really, really likes me. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to have the best time ever, because prior to that, I had ditched all my friends and I was that girl being over here like booed up and whatever. And I decided I was gonna have the best time of my life with my friends, and that was the best night, hands down, of my entire life, when I just like let everything go. You hold my hand, she can't compare. I had been mistreating my friends for so long, in the sense of like just talking about this guy so much and really not focusing on my friendships. And my friends were there for me every step of the way. Like when him and I would get in fights, or when I would do this or that, like when I would be sad or when I would be happy, like my friends were the ones having to deal with it. My friends were the ones having to like pick me up from the ground, and like my friends were the ones having to like deal with all of my emotions and like telling me I'm not crazy, or like telling me I am crazy or whatever. Like my friends were the ones who were always there for me, and I never fucking saw it. And that's what I was so frustrated at myself for. Like I was like, how have I been so caught up with this one person for so long that I clouded my own judgment of my own self, of like my friends, of my family, like just everyone. I just felt like I just wasted so much time, but it wasn't. Like I understood that like everything that happens in life is a test. It's something that you have to learn from. When I finally, after Coachella, crashed down from the high of like feeling invincible and saying fuck you and whatever, and having to deal with my real emotions, that's when it got dark. That's when I was just feeling like worthless, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't just like, what was it that about me that wasn't good enough for this person, and like that's when it all hit me. And of course that's when I got the text from him, because he had gotten his phone back, or I think he texted me from like an iPad or something, because literally the whole weekend he had no phone. And so he like texted me and stuff, and was like, oh hey, coming to you live from like my iPad. How was Ariana? I think that's how he like texted me first. And I was like, honestly, she was like the best ever, like, but it looks like you had fun. And I sent him the screenshot of the photo of him and the girl. And he's like, oh yeah, I just ran into her, like with an eye roll. And I was like, don't fucking lie on me, like don't lie on me. Like, what's the point? Like after all this, like after I got my feelings literally shoved in my face and like thrown to the side, like now you're about to lie on me. And so I'm like, I went really off, because I think it went from like sadness to extreme happy to FU to then just like rage and then back to sadness. Like I was just a mess for so long. And so I went off, and I told him just how I felt. Like I was like, look, like I thought we were on the same page about this. He told me he was struggling relationally right now, and that he just doesn't know if he can be what I wanted long term. And I just felt like that's all I needed to know. So I was like, look, dude, like I would never disrespect you like this, and I feel disrespected. And that's just even on a friend level. Like I wouldn't disrespect someone in that way. So it essentially all ended with me just saying, look, like I enjoyed our time together. Like I hope you had the best time ever. I hope you had the most fun time ever with your friends. Like, but I can't, like I just can't do this anymore. And I just was like, I enjoyed our time together, but I'm good. Of course I wanted to talk to him. Of course I wanted to have like, resolution moment and whatever, and figure things out. But at the same time, I knew that I was walking back into a situation where it could happen again, where I would be like wooed and I would be told everything I needed to hear, in order to get me back, and in order to whatever. And I knew it was just this constant cycle of like, once we were bad, then he would come back and, apologize and tell me something, and then I would forgive him, and then we get back into it and it'd be amazing, and then something happened, and it was just constantly something. So I had to walk away. But of course, the way the universe works, I went to go do a music video, and I was asked to be part of it. And I was basically essentially playing the best friend in the music video. And I come to find out that he was playing the love interest of the person. And I'm like, a fucking course? Like, of course, like. So I had to see him. I saw him, and it was like fucking weird. And as coincidental and crazy as it sounded to me, and as much as I didn't want to show up and whatever, like that was an opportunity that not only I didn't want to take away from myself, but I didn't want to take away from him. So I'm not going to tell the person, oh yeah, like that's my person I used to talk to. He fucked me over at Coachella. He was running around with some other girl with a VIP pass that I gave him with his friends and blah, 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 and then wanted to hang out with me later. Like, no, I was going to do all that. Like what? Instead, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be professional. I'm just going to like but it was such a gut-wrenching moment. Imagine like not seeing someone for, I think at that time it was probably like a month, and then, you know, walking in on a music video set and just having to be with them for a while. I took a break from YouTube and I took a break from everything because I questioned all of my relationships, because this was one where I didn't know what the intentions were. I didn't know if this person really liked me or not. Like at the end of the day, this person could have just said that, oh no, I was crazy and that this was all in my head or whatever, but like, I don't know. And it really threw me because like I'd never experienced that pain, like that inner heartbreak. And the thing is, like, I've experienced pain on all degrees. My fucking life is pain. Like, I have gotten 8-hour surgeries. I've gotten this, I've gotten that, nip, tuck, pulled, yanked, and whatever. And nothing could amount to the pain that I felt when this all happened. One thing that I just like despise the most is that I didn't hate him, you know? Like, I didn't feel any type of way, because like I just felt like it just is what it is. It is what it is with kind of girls like me, you know? Like I just at one point was just thinking to myself, you know what? Like, I'm never going to find love. Like, I'm never going to have someone who loves me, and I'm fully acceptant of that. And I, through all of this, have found the inner strength and understanding that I have to really, and I thought I loved myself. I really did. I thought I was like really good in everything, but it wasn't until this kind of like threw and rocked my world that I realized that it has to be on like a different level. And I found love in so many different ways, from my friends, like I said, from myself, from my family, and just for the people that have been there for me. And it's been such a wild roller coaster through this whole thing. And I think for me, like, I was fine with everything and I was like pretty much cordial with it all. But then I got really upset and stuff because he knew that the one thing that would hurt me and just like make me feel some type of way is like posting a picture with another girl, right? Because that was the whole thing throughout it. Like, oh, you know, never post you, like whatever. And then he finally did with another girl, and that was, you know what? That's fine. That's him, and that's his own life and whatever. And he can continue his fantasy, and I wish him the best. But it's like, I knew that was done to get to me. If you guys have noticed me going extra in or extra hard or extra crazy or whatever, like, it's because like I've been focused and I took that time away. And like, that's why when I took the break from YouTube and whatever, I, instead of like coming out with a video and being like, you guys, I'm going through this thing, I just took the break. I just needed a break and needed a moment to really collect myself. Granted, it hasn't been that long, but at the same time, I felt like it was long enough, and I felt like it was long enough to owe you guys an explanation and to owe myself this moment of talking about my emotions, because like I said, it's really hard for me. I guess ultimately what I want to document and tell myself, you can't put your self-worth, your well-being, your happiness, your everything in the hands of someone else. You yourself have to love every aspect of yourself, and have to understand that if someone else doesn't feel that same way, if someone else isn't able to accept everything about you, then they're not worth it. And if that's the case, then you should focus that energy towards yourself. I mean, to be honest with you guys, I really don't know where this is going to go, but in terms of the pain that I've felt over the past couple of months, I am better now. I mean, I guess I just want to wrap this up by saying thank you. Like, you don't even know how many messages I've gotten over this time period from people who I just never expected to. You guys have always been there for me, and you know when I'm sad, and you know when I'm going through things, and I haven't been necessarily the most discreet about my feelings, but at the same time, I haven't been the most forthcoming. The overwhelming amount of love that I've gotten, I just can't thank you guys enough, because you truly have had my back and have had such a support for me. And I will never understand why just this little girl from the middle of nowhere, Virginia, with my blonde wigs and my blue hair and my crazy surgeries and my fucking clocky ass voice and whatever, like, I don't understand why you guys like me. And it just, like, I love you, and that's it. Like, I love you, and thank you so much for being there for me, and that's all. Like, thank you for watching or whatever. And like, That's why I want to just get this out of the way and focus on what really matters, on me, on my content, on my like pussy stunting, on just everything else. And I just don't want to have to address this or like have to see people comment about it, because that's what I've seen. And it's just like, I just want to move on. And I wish the other person the best ever. And I hope he has the best life. And like, he was just part of my journey, and he was introduced into my life for me to learn something, and I learned something from it. And I'm sharing that with you guys because I want, hopefully, you guys to not make the same mistakes that I've made. But at the same time, I've accepted the fact that like I have to make mistakes, and it's been hard for me to accept that. But I love you. Thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget, breathe fire, my dragons. Oh, I want all my clothes designer.